Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. The playoffs rage on. Officiating mistakes being made. Man, I feel for the Detroit Pistons. That was absolutely brutal. We've got a lot of stuff to get into here on today's show. Roster teardowns, injuries. Ooh, lots of topics. Make sure you guys do subscribe to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Keith, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, the officiating stuff, I will comment when I think there are glaringly bad calls in games that I watch, but I hate when it actually comes down to it, which is, in fairness, is pretty rare, right? Like, it's pretty rare that a main call, but like we had 3 in the span of like 16 hours or so.
Yeah.
The one, it's the same guy, David Guthrie. He missed the Tim Hardaway Jr. getting fouled and then came out after. He was the one who, in the Celtics Magic game, which ultimately they got the call sorted and right, but blew the 8-second call, then backcourt call, turned into an inadvertent whistle mess. Who knows? Like it wasn't any of those things. Like, there's no reason for the whistle to even be blown. They just timing issues in that game as well. And then then you had the whole review proximate, like, just that part of it stinks. And the bummer is it took away from some really good games, right? Like, it also was a little kind of stinky that Nuggets wild finish. This is not on the refs because they had to review. I mean, holy crap, I've never seen a closer like finish.
Oh, right. Yeah, the Aaron Gordon, was it touching his hand or not?
Yeah. It just stinks that like we had to like spend so much time. It took away from like the
does it count, does it not? Right.
But, yeah, but it was, I mean, I'll choose to be positive and say we got a bunch of really good games this weekend, and in the end, that's great for the league. But yeah, the officiating stuff is a bit of a bummer.
I think the negative is and I'll choose to be negative, we got a bunch of really great games, but the spotlight's on the refs, and that's not where the NBA wants it.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And speaking of being negative, let's
get real bad and mean today.
Oh my God.
And then we'll end on a super positive at the end.
This was so I mean, Damian Lillard, and here's the other thing is, as we're recording this, I haven't seen it confirmed, but it's still, the last I saw, still feared torn Achilles. Achilles, like, if they think you tore it, you tore it. It's not like, oh, well, maybe he didn't actually know. They know, right when you do it, that's what you did. So
let me jump in real quick just to say it's worrisome that no one has come out and refuted the report or said, no, that's not correct, which tells you we're just waiting on the right test to be done to confirm it.
They know. I mean, so
yep.
Keith,
we say it all the time. When it comes to Dame, if it's Chris Haynes, you're probably wrong with it. He's pretty tight with Dame. So
yeah. So here's the thing. I guess before we get into the Bucks of it all, Damian Lillard's going to be 35 in July. This is a difficult injury to come back from, period, right? Just for anybody to come back from. This is a difficult injury. Going to be even more difficult when you're 35 years old. So I don't want to be overly dramatic. Like, KD came back from it. Like, it can be done. But what really sucks is there's a less than 0 chance that this is the last we've seen of Damian Lillard as Damian Lillard, as the Dame time. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's just so unfortunate. And look, it happens to everybody at some point, right? All the greats at some point, they can't do it anymore. And I hope that's not. I hope he does come back and has a triumphant return and it gets back to being himself and everything. But the fact that it's that significant of an injury that we even have to have that thought that maybe we've seen the last of Damian Lillard being the guy that we remember him as, that what a downer. This sucks, Keith. This just sucks.
It's awful. It stuck in my head, the image of him just sitting on the ground, right? Sitting on the court by himself because played gone on down the other end. And it's like, it's a bummer. This one is probably as close to Kobe's as we've seen, just in terms of where they were at in their careers. Like, it's, both were, we were closing in on the end of the career. And I know it's getting harder and harder to say that now because, I mean, who the hell knows when LeBron's ever going to retire or KD. but like, yeah, I mean, KD was a good deal younger when he did his, right? Like that was, gosh, what was that? That was 5 years ago now for KD.
Yeah.
Like 2019, right? I think 2019 finals.
I think
So
you're
that's,
right.
yes, so 6 years ago. It's 2025. Good work by me knowing what year it is. But it's like,
We barely know what day it is. We're not going to for the year. Who knows?
Yeah, I knew it was Monday only because we had 8 playoff games over the last 2 days. That's the only reason I knew today was Monday.
Right.
But yeah, it makes you wonder. Now he's got hundreds of millions of dollars. Why he'll be back? Because I've seen some speculation. Maybe he just retires. I don't think that's going to be a thing. It's at least next year rehab on the the old check line, rehab on company dime or on the company time and get your money and then figure it out. But yeah, it's just awful. And it's the good thing that KD and Kobe had going for them is bigger guys. Like Dame's a small guard.
Yeah.
And I know people, I've seen some, well, he's not super reliant on athleticism, but that's actually sometimes more of a problem because you're going to be able to get by anybody. You're going to be able to jump over anybody. Like, what is that going to look like? So yeah, there's literally no good spin out of this for anything. It just sucks.
Yeah. Awful stuff and stuff you never want to see. And I guess, Keith, that it feels, just in the wake of something like this happening, you don't want to just immediately jump into what does this mean for Giannis? But that's kind of, but that's
how it works.
It is relevant though. Like it is kind of what we have to get into here. If Giannis Antetokounmpo was on the fence at all about what he does with Milwaukee, if his thinking has been, I need to win another championship, which he said stuff like that. I need to win another championship before my career ends. If there was doubt before about whether or not he could do it in Milwaukee, that doubt has to be screaming at this point. I mean, no Lillard for most likely the bulk of next season, if not all of next season. And if and when he does come back, who knows what he'll be.
And we certainly will not have fun with the breaking news drop, but it's been confirmed.
Just got confirmed.
Left Achilles.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So, and again, we knew, but so if you're Giannis and you're looking at this team and there's not a lot of flexibility, Dame is now gone for however long he is. Who knows if he'll ever be back to being himself? Hopefully he will, but it's a question. I think this pushes us closer to Giannis making it very difficult. And maybe he still decides to stay, but I think this makes it even more difficult this summer for Giannis in terms of what he wants from the Bucks and if he wants to stay in Milwaukee or not.
Yeah. So I can't remember who it was, but it was in the early days of the show. We had an injured, similar kind of thing. We had a major player go down. It was later in their career. And it's like, yeah, this is probably going to spark a domino movement of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I said was the NBA calendar doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Somebody goes down. It's just, guess what? There's another game tomorrow. Like it just keeps going. And that's part of it. It's harsh, but that's part of it. It doesn't mean we're not going to feel bad for Dame. Doesn't mean we're not going to celebrate everything he's done.
Sure.
Doesn't mean we're not going to feel bad for the Bucks as a franchise. But guess what? John Horst, their newly extended general manager, knows, all right, we're going to have to look at things now. Whether that is, what do we do to rebuild around Giannis? Because it's Giannis and a whole bunch of guys who are role players if Dame is out. Not that they're bad role players, but that's what they are. They're all role players. And how do we rebuild that? Or is it finally time to, I don't think you do it without a conversation whenever the season ends. Sit down and talk with Giannis. What are you thinking? If we find the right deal for you and you're happy, should we look at it? Like, what does that look like? And I'm not saying they need to start calling the other 29 teams today, because you certainly don't, but work together. And now I tweeted this morning. Everybody has, and I said cover, and I put cover in quotations because it's not exactly the right term because you're not trying to hide anything, but everybody now has like, right, if they decide to go their separate ways, we all kind of get it. You trade Giannis for a haul. Next year's a complete rebuilding year. Yeah, you don't have your own pick, but that is what it is. There's nothing you can do to change that. And then you do your best to start rebuild, let Dame rehab, and then a year from now with Dame, you have the same conversation of, all right, let's see what we can do. Where can we get you when you're on an expiring $58.5 million contract? Because I will say this, he's going to pick up that option now.
Oh, for sure.
Unless he pulls a shocker of shocker and just says, you know what, I'm done. I'm retiring today. Let's cover off on a couple things because there's a lot of stuff out there today that is just wrong.
Are you talking about the DPE stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
DPE stuff, medical retirement stuff, all of that.
Okay.
He does let's say Damian Lillard, it's now being confirmed, has a torn left Achilles. Let's say this afternoon, he says, I'm retiring. I'm done. I'm not going to play. What the Bucks can do is petition for medical retirement, which means 1 year from now, any remaining salary gets wiped off the books that he's owed if he is found, he's not coming back, and he doesn't come back, because that's the other thing that's really important here. So 1 year from yesterday.
Who was that 1 year? That was
Timothy Mozgov, I think, is the most recent one.
Most recent one. But who is it? Who the Grizzlies brought somebody back?
Darius Miles.
That's who it was.
Back.
That's right.
Yeah, he ultimately fell short of the game's played requirement. But yes, absolutely. So next year, Damian Lillard's on the Bucks books for $54 million for basically the entire season. There's nothing that's going to happen with that money for next year. Then in 2026, 27, if they went the medical retirement route, they could get that $58 million bounced off the books. And Trevor's got it up on the screen if you're watching. It'd be Giannis, Kyle Kuzma, and then there's probably a couple dudes who make very little money at the bottom of the screen that we don't need to scroll to. So it'd be like nothing on the books. You'd have $80 million against a $170 million cap, and great, you'd have a ton of cap space. But next year, they're cooked. I've also seen people saying, well, if he can't play next year, they get $54 million to spend. No, they do not. They could petition and get the disabled player exception, which would mean that the league believes he will miss the entirety of next season, and that'd be the equivalent of the non-taxpayer mid-level amount, which would be $14 million. But let's remember, the Bucks are very likely to be dealing with the apron, so they may not even be able to spend that. And the disabled player exception is extremely limiting. You can trade for a player who's on an expiring contract, a true expiring contract, by the way, can't have an option or a non-guarantee year coming, or sign a player for up to the amount of the disabled player exception, let's say $14 million on a 1-year contract. Not a bad thing to have. It's the start of the offseason if they go that way. But it's a 1-year thing, because the idea is we're going to give you a chance to semi-replace the player you lost for this season. But it's very hard. When you get them, they're used, but they're rarely used on any kind of major impact move. Like when the Celtics had one for Gordon Hayward, do you remember who they turned it into?
Oh, I don't. I remember it wasn't anybody that moved
Greg
the needle.
Monroe. 1 year, $5 million, and he did absolutely nothing and barely played in the playoffs. So that's kind of what you get out of these. Now, it'd be better to have it on July 10th or whatever.
Sure.
And be like, all right, well, let's go actually free agent shopping with $14 million that we wouldn't have otherwise. But
is any doctor going to go to Dame Lillard? And maybe they would, but let's say he gets surgery tomorrow.
Sure.
Is any doctor going to say, yes, 100%, I know for sure that even come, April of next year, he will not be able to play. And there's zero chance he can play, because that's what they would have to get.
The good news is the actual wording on the disabled player exception is significantly more likely than not to miss the entirety of the remainder of the season. I personally think the league would grant it. And then if Damian Lillard makes it back in late April or late March to play, you kind of say, hey, good for Damian Lillard and the Bucks, and now they have an extra player, and guess what? You didn't have him for 75 of the 82 regular season games or whatever. And, good for him. We're all happy he's back, and we go. And that was the case with Hayward too, because remember that year there was the thought of, he's starting to run. Could he maybe play in the playoffs? And then we found out he was actually nowhere close, and he needed other surgeries and everything else. It was a huge mess. But anyway, just to correct a little bit of that stuff that's out there. And I'm seeing people say this with extreme confidence, some of this stuff, and it's very, very wrong. So just so we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
The Bucks are pretty limited in what they can do there. Then that turns into the big question. Like we said, what do you do with Giannis? Do you start the process? Somebody asked me, well, who would be interested? Everybody.
Everyone.
He's
Yeah.
30-year-old superstar who has 2 years under contract before an option year. And his you'd be fully able to extend him because he's already past the max amount anyway. So you're not even concerned about like running into the like Luka problem with the Lakers, right? Which is actually a good thing for the Lakers, that they're going to save money on his extension because they can't give him more by rules. Giannis is already past to that point. So you'd be able to do kind of whatever you need to do. So yeah, I mean, everybody would make the phone call at least, just
For sure.
Hey, what is it for?
What would it take?
Teams? Yeah. For some teams, it's going to be like Phoenix. It would be like, no, like,
right.
I think the answer from the Bucks would very easily be, you have literally no draft picks, and no.
Well, they've got the draft picks that they traded their future unprotected first for.
Yeah,
but I don't think
one
the Bucks,
pick this year.
Yeah, I don't think the.
Would you like the 30th pick in the draft and Bradley Beal and John Horst and say, no, thank you. I already have now a guard that's hurt and makes $50 million.
They already matrix dodged Bradley Beal once. I don't think they want to do that again. But I think you're right. I think 29 teams would be making the call on Giannis if that's the way this goes. And it kind of feels like maybe that's the way this needs to go. And I don't want to say that because I would prefer the Giannis winds up staying. I just don't see, and I hope I'm wrong, I just don't see the path for the Bucks to make moves this summer where you go, oh, cool, next year the Bucks are back. You know what? I just don't see that.
Same.
So then what? Then it comes down to what's more important for Giannis. Is it staying in Milwaukee his entire career or contending for a championship? And that's the decision he'll have to make.
And I get today, Bucks fans have been firing back with, he's never asked for a trade. He's always said he wants to be here. Completely agree.
Yeah.
We have, Trevor, I can't even tell you how many times on this show we have said, stop with the Giannis stuff. This is dumb. He doesn't want to go anywhere else. And maybe he still doesn't. We'll wait and see. Their season's not over. So he's not even going to address that until maybe when the season is over, and I kind of doubt we'll even get it then. It'll be, we're going to sit down and look at everything or whatever he'll say, right? Come some stock answer. But Giannis has also very much said, I want to compete for titles. I want to win titles. I don't know how you put together, a winning team. I was just getting to it. They are right now, next year, they're about 25.6 million under the tax line. Not bad, right? Because they do have 9 guys under contract. So you've got several roster spots you need to fill. The big ticket item is Brook Lopez. Like, he's the guy who makes the most. But I think we're at the point with Brook Lopez where we're probably makes 23 million this year. Probably next year, you're probably going to get him 10 or 12, roughly half of what he made. And, if he wants to stay. So you're probably in range of being able to, my main thing is here, probably in range of being able to use the full non-taxpayer MLE next year to fill out. And most of that is because you traded out Chris Middleton's 30 plus million for Kyle Kuzma's 22. Like, that's the reality. But are you a non-taxpayer mid-level plus a reasonably re-signed Brook Lopez from competing? I don't think so. I think that's the problem.
That's the problem. Yep. Well, tough times in Milwaukee. Why don't we put so much negative on today's show? Let's jump from one tough.
Well, it's probably because there's there's just not a lot positive going on right now.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let's jump from.
I will, for that one guy who says we never talk about the Celtics. Yes, I'm happy they're up 3-1. I 100% want this series over in 4. One, you always want them over, but it's it's been an extremely physical series, and I want it done. Like, just get moved on to the next round, and and I'm not even calling the Magic dirty. They've just been it's just been a physical series.
Oh, it's their only choice is to be physical.
Yeah, you have
It's what they have to do.
Yeah,
in a series like that. All right, the Grizzlies.
Hey, more fun.
So Zach Kleiman had a bunch of comments recently about the Grizz, about their futures. Obviously, they're not good enough. It feels like major change is coming to Memphis. We've talked about perhaps one or more of their big 3 maybe being moved. John Morant, Des Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., some changes there. He also admitted they made a mistake when they didn't pick up the contract option for Jake LaRavia. I was shocked when they did that. It didn't make sense.
Yep.
And now the Kings are happy. We'll talk about the Kings later, but the Grizzlies obviously face a uncertain future here heading into the summer. So when we talk, like, there's already some big names, right? We talk about Kevin Durant, maybe Giannis, right? Like, out there on the market, maybe Zion out there on the market. Could we also be talking about Ja with, again, the Grizz already admitting, hey, we're not good enough. This group isn't it. And this team, I'm very confident this roster will not look the same next year.
Agreed. Yep. And I think I'm going to go like half step further than you. Like if you're in up to your ankles, I'll go in up to my knees in the water here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be one of the top three guys is gone.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be Morant, Bane, or Jackson. One of the three
Which one?
is gone. Yeah, that's the question. The one who oddly maybe is the most safe is the one who I think is the most tradable because there's just nothing else, which is Desmond Bane. Because Desmond Bane, I think there's some now where like he's not worth what he's paid, and I'm having a crazy case of the hiccups here.
It's all the sadness.
Yeah,
from today's show.
Grizzlies. Bane's just very plug and play, and he is a very good player. So, and he's signed the longest term out of everybody. And plus, he did have the 1 year of injury stuff, but for the most part, he's been pretty healthy. There's none of the off-court stuff with him. Like, you're just fine. I think it's either Morant or Jackson, depending on if it's Morant, does the team make a big enough offer? We know there's some pretty good teams, even though if the Spurs do have De'Aaron Fox, which if you saw our show last week, you would know why I'm saying
when
I
that's
conveniently forgot De'Aaron Fox was on the Spurs. There are teams that need a point guard, so you might be able to get a pretty good haul from Morant. Then the other reason why I'm split between him and Jackson is things get a little wonky with Jackson's potential next contract.
Yeah.
Because now I don't know that they're going to really be in position to give him the good extension that he wants. And the Grizzlies may be like, dude, we can't go to $40 million for the three of you each. Like, that's our entire cap. Where are we going with this? So I'm 50-50 on those two.
Okay. All right.
Which means it'll be Desmond Bane. So there we go.
Which means it'll be Bane. Bane will be gone. It's a tough spot, I think, to be in for the Grizz. I think the Marcus Smart trade set them back significantly. And now they've got to kind of put the pieces together. There's also the question.
Giving up the first to get off Smart too.
I mean,
like
it's just brutal. And that, and the Grizz were a team where you went, okay, they've got a shot, and then to see them at the trade deadline make a cost-saving move like that, you were like, shouldn't they be adding to this group? And then they didn't, and it kind of ended up with, and surprisingly, they wound up almost beating the Thunder in game 4, right? I mean, I thought that was going to be a blowout loss. I had an opportunity to go to that game, and I was like, nah, they're going to get crushed.
And I give them credit for fighting.
They fought. But now I think a big question for them is what happened. What do they do with Santi Aldama as well, who's going to hit restricted free agency? And he's had a really nice season. So that's another piece that they've got to figure out as they're trying to, fit the pieces of the puzzle together here. What do they do there? What do they do with him? And, they found something in Jay Huff. They've got, G.G. Jackson. You've got Vince Williams. You've got some guys that are on more cost-controlled contracts. But still, like, there's moves that need to be made. And Brandon Clark getting healthy would certainly help them. They've got pieces. They've got players. But the pieces aren't fitting together right now. And so there's a lot of work, I think, to be done this offseason in Memphis.
And I get it, right? We're looking at, if you look at the age column here, on the spot track sheet, you're looking at a whole bunch of guys who are 25-ish years old, right? All generally in that range, which is awesome. But then you look at it and say, this group's been together for like 5+ years. They have one playoff series win. Like, where are we going? Like, where are we going with this core group? And Grizzlies fans came for me last week with, but everybody said the same thing about the Celtics. And I was like, that was different because it was like, is that group ever going to get to a finals? Because they were in the East Finals every year, getting knocked out with their core group. And then you know what they did? They made a bunch of changes and put the right guys around the core group. It moved it forward. And by doing that, they went super deep into the tax. I don't know if that's where Memphis is going to go. So that's where you start to say, all right, if we're not going to do those things, what do we do? To circle back to Aldama too, I wonder if that could actually be a really good sign and trade candidate for them. Sign and trade him somewhere, bring back value versus straight losing him. Because I just don't know how you're going to pay him if you're going to have Jaren Jackson Jr. and Brandon Clark on the roster, and you have Zach Edey. That's 4 bigs that kind of, at best, you could kind of play 2 of them together. I know they've played Aldama as like this really, massive 3 at times, but you're probably not doing that regularly. So yeah, I really like Santi Aldama a lot, but something's got to give within that big man collection there.
Absolutely.
Hey, let's just before we go to our next topic, this is from Chris Haynes. In speaking with Damian Lillard, he's motivated on attacking his rehab and returning to form. He's in good spirits. So that to me says anybody who thinks he's retiring, it's not happening. And we kind of knew that anyway.
Right. And we knew that was going to be the case. All right. Keith, we need to talk about the Kings and their roster situation, but I know we're running up on time. Let's not shortchange them. Let's save that one for tomorrow. We'll talk about the Kings because we'll have time to go over that. Let's do our makeup lottery spin here.
Yeah. Apparently we forgot to do this I swore we pulled it up Friday, but then I think we got talking about other things. And
we probably got sidetracked talking about Daredevil or something like that.
Honestly, if we did do it, guess what? Then you get a bonus one. And
that sounds on brand for us here. All right. So let's do a spin here, and we'll see what the fickle finger of fate brings.
little over 2 weeks out from the lottery.
Yep, that's right. Here we go. Okay, we'll find out. Philly fans, hold your breath. Obviously, they have a lot on the line here, but a number of teams have a lot on the line. All right, let's go. Let's find out what happens. Sim lottery. Whoa!
Oh! That's the craziest one we've had yet.
Oh, man. Talk about saving basketball in Dallas. They move up 10 spots and get the number 1 pick. Cooper Flagg, you're a Maverick. Good Lord.
Look at why every time teams jump, do them multiple teams don't move except for Washington?
The poor Wizards.
Time. The Wizards get pushed back in this, but man.
So the Mavs had a 1.8% chance of getting number 1 overall, and they get it. On this spin. Unreal. That's whew,
well, defense does win championships, and he's a pretty good defensive player.
Defense wins championships.
Defense wins lotteries. Apparently.
Nico Harrison would be breathing the biggest sigh of relief ever if this were to happen. But we also have Philly. This is why them moving down to 5 was so important. They do get bumped, but only 1 spot, so they still keep their pick. In this scenario, they wind up with the 6th pick. Utah moves down a spot. Charlotte's at 3. Utah's at 2. Charlotte's at 3. New Orleans at 4. The Wizards move down 3 spots to 5. The Detroit Pistons look at them and go, yeah, we know how that feels. And then you've got the Brooklyn Nets, the Raptors, the Spurs, the Rockets via the Suns, and the Blazers all move down 1 spot as well. So Dallas slides up, everybody else slides down a bit, and then the Wizards sliding back 3 spots in this scenario.
Whew, this one's the craziest one we've had.
It probably is, yeah.
Yeah. And I've spent more time on Tankathon doing spins of this stupid thing than I probably should admit. And it's you can't game it to get anything that you just want to see. So
it's the luck of the draw.
Crazy.
Yeah. The way it goes.
Ping pong balls, that's how they bounce.
All right. Everybody, give us your thoughts in the comments down below. Apologies to the Kings. We'll get you on tomorrow's show. We'll talk all about them.
That man, Matt Damon.
The little Matt Damon there. Yeah, that's right.
We're having fun by the end of the show.
Where nobody knows what I'm talking about. All right, everybody. Thank you again. Make sure you do subscribe right here to the channel. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.